Shake your marakas and get ready. Today we'll deal with the most famous Korok of the Koroks, the gentle giant who crushes hordes of opponents through playful use of his maracas. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Hestu. In this guide we'll take a detailed look at Hestus' attacks, combos and additional abilities, and learn all about his weapons and possible builds. And no, unlike the main reward in Breath of the Wild at the time, in this guide there is only interesting to know about his playstyle in Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. My name's Kay, thanks for joining us again, and let's start directly with liking the video. Right into the video. Psst, if you like it, I would love you like it. It helps tremendously to provide you more amazing guides. But anyway, Hestu joins our team relatively early and accompanies us from now on to fight against the dark forces of Ganon. Once you have met all 4 champions and completed the first mission, another one soon follows, where you travel together with Hestu in the Lost Woods, and after completing this main mission, you can play as him. But now enough about the general info. Let's take a look at Hestus' weak attack rotation. At first glance, he may seem like a clumsy character to play, but I'll show you how to take full advantage of his mobility. His rotation consists of attacks with his marakas. Normally, I would go into detail in this part about what sequence of blows it's made up of, but in this case, it's simple on the one hand and not on the other. All in all, Hestu executes up to 7 blows, which are, except for the last one, very identical. You deal the main damage with small AoE, area of effect attacks, directly in front of you. Finally, Hestu lets confetti fly out of his maracas, which inflict even more area of effect damage and thus end the rotation. Here it becomes clear relatively quickly that he belongs to the slower hero variety. But as I said, his combos give him some of the mobility that he generally lacks. In principle, his fighting style consists of building up distance to his opponents and then using his attacks to inflict damage from a distance. If Hestu is in the middle of the action, he can use one or the other area attack and then increase the distance again with a corresponding combo. So much for that, now let's look at his techniques in detail. To use the full potential of his combo attacks, let's first look at his unique action in detail. As with all other characters, you can trigger it by pressing the ZR key. In Hestus' case, he summons a small entourage of Koroks to stand by him during the fight. At first glance, they may seem to be no further use, but as soon as you unleash your stronger attacks on your opponents on the battlefield, they will faithfully stand by your side and begin attacking them together with you. Hestus' attacks are based on elements related to the Koroks, such as stones that you have to bring into certain formations, or balloons that show a Korok after bursting them. These elements are also used in the combos, and the more Koroks you have at your side, the stronger they are. But enough about the theory, let's just take a look at the whole thing in practice. The first strong attack is triggered by pressing the X button. Depending on whether or not you have already summoned additional Koroks through ZR, Hestu will attack first with his maracas. This attack is similar to the weak attack rotation, but with slightly more range. If you don't have any Koroks by your side at this point, 3 of the little friends will come to your aid and start throwing random stuff at your enemies, inflicting area damage. If you have pressed ZR before, there are more Koroks available to maximize your damage output. This pattern is generally followed throughout the fighting style, so it's recommended to always have the maximum number of Koroks available. And throwing is repeated again, so you can get up to 3 hits out of his attack. And if you move during this, the Koroks adjust their aim and fire the items where you are standing afterwards. The first real combo is classically executed by pressing first Y and then X. Here you send your Koroks directly into battle and can sling them at your opponents over a very long distance. As long as they fly forward, they will inflict damage on any enemies that get in their way. Again, the more Koroks you have at your side, the more damage you can unleash on your opponents. Otherwise, there is not much to say about this combo. It is good for first damage to large distant groups of enemies, or if the situation should be dicey, you can create some distance and thus still unleash strong attacks on the mobs. One thing to keep in mind though, the Koroks stop when they hit strong enemies, just so you remember that. Combo number 2 finally brings the mobility I've been talking about for a while. Hestu gets 2 Koroks to grab his hands and move quickly with the magical little propellers. You can move freely once you've used this attack, and you get a good speed boost while being pulled. The special thing about this attack is that you push any enemies you catch while flying in front of you and deal damage at the same time. So at the end of the combo, you have a bunch of mobs, if they haven't died yet, in front of you, and you can deal with them even more attacks from you. And by the way, it's really satisfying to fly through the battlefields like that and push the enemies around, just that you know. We continue with the third combo. To make this one as effective as possible, it's recommended that you press ZR beforehand to have the maximum amount of Koroks available. After successfully executing the combo, your little forest friends get ready and start flying straight ahead, dropping a carpet of bombs. Only instead of bombs you use stones. And this attack takes a really long time. Really long. See for yourself. The great thing is of course directly visible here. You can inflict a lot of damage over a very large area. Once you've unleashed the Koroks on your enemies, you can easily continue to deal musical top damage with your maracas. A special feature I would like to mention here is the possible range reset. As soon as you perform another combo, such as the first one, your friends will join you. The same happens while the Koroks are doing the stone bombardment, so you can bring them close to you again and benefit from the damage of the stones in addition to the new combo. Sounds more complicated than it is. Just try it out for yourself and you will get the hang of it instantly. The fourth combo is one of those that lets you take care of the weak point gauge of your strong opponents. To say it up front, this attack only works at short range, so it's good if you're right in the middle of the action. Once you've executed it, a pair of the familiar Korok balloons will appear, which you normally have to destroy in the main game to get a Korok seed. Here, however, you need them as an attack, because as soon as they appear in the field, they already inflict the first damage. Your Koroks will then pounce on them with arrows, and as soon as they are hit, they will explode and inflict damage on enemies in close proximity. By concentrating the explosion, you have the possibility to effectively fight against the previously mentioned weak point gauge. Again, it's recommended to use known stasis tactics for this. More about this in the combat guide. Have a look at the top right corner in this video. In addition, this attack also makes the weak point gauge appear, so another good reason to use it against named enemies. The fifth and final combo combines aspects of mobility and concentrated attacks. With the help of this attack, Hestus starts surfing on a Korok leaf, dealing damage as he moves and finishing with a weak point gauge revealing maraca attack. The hits before this are also good for emptying the gauge quickly, to deal with the larger enemies. You'll be able to surf through small enemies, but stop in front of larger ones, and let the full power of this move out on them. Hestus is a rather special character when it comes to his combos. The combination of damage and the associated mobility offers some interesting and almost funny ways to ruin your enemy's day on the battlefields of Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity. However, one thing has to be said here. Of course, compared to Link or Impa for example, you have far less immensely powerful attacks with which you can empty weak point gauges in seconds. It's important to know how to use Hestus' available moves and how the Koroks can support you. Now that we've looked at the combos in detail, let's take a look at Hestus' dash, aerial and rune attacks. As creative and interesting as the other attacks try to be, his other abilities are disappointing. Let's start with the dash. Like every character, there is again a variant with the strong and weak attack. Basically, it always looks like this. The weak attack, meaning pressing Y while sprinting, lets you use a stronger attack and ends the sprint. In contrast, pressing X, which is the strong attack button, lets you use a rather weaker attack out of the sprint, but does not end the sprint momentum. In this case, the strong attack is simply a slightly stronger attack with the maracas, and the weak attack deals a little less damage, but lets you shoot 3 small bullets that deal weak ranged damage. On the whole, these are just small variations of the maraca attacks with a minimal twist. It's a similar story with aerial attacks, where there are always 2 categories of characters. Those who have special moves, and those who have a 3-way combination of weak attacks and a strong attack as a finish. Hestu belongs to the latter category. So once you're in the air, it's best to press Y 3 times for the maximum combo length, and then press X to finish it off. The last attack adds a bit of AoE damage that can be useful when you have large groups of enemies together, or when you have flown them together after using the second combo. After the dash and the aerial moves, we still have the rune attacks. Here you can use many Koroks again, and thus the attacks are a bit more exciting and effective. If you use the bomb rune, you first throw 3 bombs in front of you at medium distance, and at the end your Korok friends each throw a small bomb in front of them at short distance. This way you can throw a good number of bombs to hit certain weak points of enemies. With the Cryonis rune, Hestus summons a huge block of ice that bounces in front of you a few times, dealing damage to enemies as it moves. At the end, when the ice block is destroyed, the Koroks help you to inflict some more damage at the final place of the block. Magnesis again makes metal objects whirl around, causing a little damage to enemies, and at the end a chest appears for a little extra effect. Finally, we come to the Stasis rune, and this is probably the best of the 4. On the one hand, you again have the advantage here that your enemies are frozen for a short time and cannot move. And as a further bonus, your Koroks start throwing any stuff at the enemies in front of you, inflicting even more damage. You also have the option here to either use the automatic attack or, which I rather recommend, to perform a dash cancel. Here you simply have to dash once during the stasis effect with B and can decide freely which attacks you want to use. Combine an exposed weak point gauge with the stasis effect, have your Koroks throw things and use the 5th combo. This is the most effective way to go when it comes to the possibility for a weak point smash and thus destroying your opponent. Those were them, the dash, aerial and rune attacks. The first 2 categories are rather standard attacks, but the runes offer you interesting ways to use their effects in battle. What remains are the weapons and build recommendations. Hestu is also one of the characters that have a total of 3 different weapons at his disposal. These differ mainly in base and max stats, as well as bonus seals, which are unlocked at weapon level 25 and 30 respectively. The weapons that are available are the marakas, the shaka marakas and the shakalaka marakas. Very creative, I know. But for the sake of simplicity, I will focus on the strongest weapon type, which is the shakalaka maracas, and make my recommendations based on that. Hestus' fighting style is very unique, and I ask myself the question, what kind of seal support is fighting style the best? I definitely want to focus on the bonus damage that is added to the max damage of the weapon when you have 4 and then 2 seals of the same type. At level 25 and 30, you get a seal that increases your damage by 7 to 9% per 100 KOs on the one hand, and a seal that heals you when you defeat enemies on the other. Both of these seals are hexagons. So to get the first damage bonus and to use the bonus of the seal, I recommend you 2 seals that increase your damage when you have full hearts. This way you can use the healing effect of the level 30 seal and get even more damage out of it, because those 2 are also hexagons. For the last 2 seal slots, I would take either attack speed ++ or attack range ++. So you can on the one hand hit faster with your marakas to use the combos, or increase the AoE effectiveness of the attacks. Oh well, Hestu. All in all, a great character, but in terms of damage output and general playability, he is a bit further down the line than his other colleagues. The Koroks make it possible to strengthen their respective attacks and combos, and it's just fun to wreak havoc with a small army of the Forest Friends, although I also have to say that the mechanics could certainly have been a bit more polished. Nonetheless, there are definitely ways you can use it effectively, or just to have some fun and beat up the enemies in a different way. You know what else is fun? If you liked this video and show me that you liked it. On the one hand, it helps me with the production of further videos, and on the other hand, we show YouTube that the videos are good and we can let our community grow steadily. Other than that, there's not much left to say. Thanks for watching, I hope you learned something new. Check out my other guides and videos on Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity and other Nintendo games in the future, and my name's Kay. See you soon, bye bye.